Yeah, I'm not sure anyone was really expecting this move out of the Sox today. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on the second video of today. Now, in the first video we talked about this morning, we actually talked about the fact that the Red Sox needed to make some roster moves. They had signed Nathaniel Lowe, so we knew that he needed to be added to this 26-man roster. We also heard that Nate Eaton, thanks to our friend Andrew Parker, was headed up to Boston, which meant that someone else was going to need to be moved, right? So we knew that moves were coming for the Boston Red Sox, and those guys were both added before today's game, so it's not really the surprise there. What is surprising is who actually ended up leaving to make room for these two people. Now, the first move the Red Sox made this afternoon was to add Nathaniel Lowe to the 26-man roster and DFA Ali Sanchez. By doing this, they also add him to the 40-man roster for those of you who care or are curious or whatever, and this one isn't surprising at all, right? We actually talked about this exact scenario this morning. Poor Ali Sanchez is going to go down as one of those guys we come back to in a couple of years and go, hey, remember this guy Ali Sanchez on the Red Sox? And you're going to go, no, I don't. What was he? And then you're going to look him up on Baseball Reference. You're going to see that he was with the Red Sox for a little over a week, almost 2 weeks at this point, and got one at-bat, which was a pinch defensive player. He came into a blowout during that Houston Astros series and got an at-bat because of that. So, yeah, I mean, if you're sitting here saying that you're surprised Ali Sanchez was DFA'd, I don't know what to tell you. But what I will say is I do hope Ali Sanchez does end up figuring out a way to stay in Boston. Now, obviously, he's got to go through the waiver wire, and if someone picks him up, someone picks him up. But with the way that the Red Sox catching has been lately, specifically with how fatigue has been hitting Carlos Narvaez, I just simply think having as much catching depth on this Red Sox roster as humanly possible would be a really smart move for the Boston Red Sox. So I am kind of hoping that he comes in here and ends up passing through waiver wires as an outrighted down to Worcester. Now, I think a lot of people were going to sit there and say, well, why didn't you option Connor Wong? I just simply think you look between the two of these guys, they're going to give you similar output, but Connor Wong knows the pitching staff a little bit better, knows the clubhouse a little bit better, and he's Brayan Bello's personal catcher this year, and we've all talked about how much better Brayan Bello has been between this season and last season. So just simply based on the fact that you are making Brayan Bello a better pitcher, I'm holding on to Connor Wong over Ali Sanchez. Again, not a total surprise here at all. Nathaniel Lowe, again, we talked about him this morning, probably going to be a guy who plays almost exclusively against righties, probably going to be a guy who's going to take a little bit, if he gets going at all, to get going with the Boston Red Sox. And he's probably going to be a guy that if he does get going, he's going to add some power, going to add some ability to take some walks, and hopefully make this Red Sox offense a bit more intriguing. But that was just the first move. The real interesting part comes with the second one here. Now, obviously, the first part of the second move is that the Red Sox added Nate Eaton to the 26-man roster. Again, we talked about it this morning. We talked about it at the beginning of this video. Y'all knew it was coming, right? But in order to fit Nate Eaton onto the 26-man roster, the Red Sox actually moved Rob Refsynder over to the 10-day IL with what they are calling as an oblique strain. No, not Willie Abreu, Rob Refsynder. And while it's only just a couple of days, right, a 10-day IL stint probably shouldn't take him too long. It just simply sounds like he needs to get himself off of his feet for a little bit and just sort of R&R to make sure that he's 100% healthy down the stretch here. This is coming at kind of a terrible time because, as we all know, Rob Refsynder is a left-handed pitching war machine, right? That's what he was put on this earth to do. He does it a whole lot better than most everybody in the world. That's the role that he plays. That's a big reason why the Boston Red Sox have been much better against left-handed pitching this year than they have in years past. Well, that and Romy Gonzalez being a god against them, that and Alex Bregman being a god against everybody, but still, right? Rob Refsynder played that important role. And normally a 10-day IL stint, you'd be like, all right, cool. You're not losing him for the entire season. You're not losing him for a couple of months. He's just going to miss about a week, and then we'll be all set and we'll be good to go. Well, in the time span that he's going to be missing from this Red Sox team, you're facing pretty much an onslaught of really solid left-handed pitching that Rob Refsynder would be very useful for. In this Orioles series, this very short Orioles series, just 2 days, the Red Sox are facing left-hander Trevor Rogers, who has been absolutely disgusting this year. He has a 1.43 ERA in 11 starts with a 245 FIP and an 808 OPS plus. Then after that, in a series against the Yankees, who are just a half game back of you in a wild card position, right? This series feels very important going down the rest of the way. The Boston Red Sox in that 3-game set are facing Carlos Rodon, who's been really solid this season, not particularly good against the Red Sox this year, but good against most everybody else. A 3.25 ERA in 25 games with a 3.85 FIP. Then you get Max Fried, who granted has been kind of buns, and by kind of I mean he has been buns since the second half of the season started here, but at the same time too is still a tough left-handed pitcher. So you sit there and you're like, okay, it's not a terrible thing that Rob Refsynder went down, right? You do avoid the injury IL list for Willie Abreu, which is solid, right? I think if we're looking for silver linings about this whole Rob Refsynder thing, is that it's not Willie Abreu, so Willie Abreu was able to avoid the IL, but of course, Rob Refsynder going down means that, you end up facing 3 really tough lefties basically in a row in a stretch that feels really important to this season. I know it feels like every game in August and September is do or die, especially with where the Boston Red Sox are, not only in the standings, but in the wild card race as well. This one in particular, though, actually kind of is do or die, right? This Orioles series, whatever. You split it, okay, fine. It doesn't mean much at the end of the day, but this Yankees series, you got to really go in there and show that you can compete against these guys, right? I mean, they're a half game behind you. If you split this Orioles series, you may end up going into this series completely tied with the New York Yankees for the second, maybe even the first wild card spot in this league. You really need to go in there and put your best on the field, and anytime you can't, it feels like a pretty big blow to the Boston Red Sox. So the Sox, they're going to have to figure out something to do here. And honestly, the answer of what they're going to do is pretty simple, right? Guys are going to need to step up. I'm not talking about Romy and Bregman and honestly, Roman Anthony, who's been kind of solid against lefties this year as well. I'm talking more so about the guys who have previously been good against lefties and have ultimately fallen off a little bit just in general. You've got, Ceddanne Rafaela, who's kind of seen a little bit of a tumble in his OPS. Kind of coincidentally, I don't think it's very much of a coincidence, but people are saying coincidentally around the time he started switching between center field and second base. He's got to be a guy who's got to step into some big moments here and deliver for the Boston Red Sox against these kind of tough lefties. Carlos Narvaez is another guy. Again, fatigue is getting to him. I think that's ultimately what the problem is with Narvaez. I don't think it's so much an approach at the plate. I don't think it's so much anything like that. I think it's just simply this guy's worn out. He's got to find another gear to get to against these tough lefties. And then obviously you've got to have your big names like Anthony, Bregman, and Romy, who's a big name against lefties, actually do their job against these left-handed pitchers. I will say, though, Nate Eaton coming up to replace Rob Refsynder does make some semblance of sense. He's actually much better against lefties than he is righties at the major league level this season. So far this year, he's hitting .278 with a .333 on base percentage and a .389 slug against lefties for a .107 OPS plus. It's nothing super crazy, right? But it's a guy who can at least get on base and, drive in some runs potentially against these left-handed pitchers. So I'm making the assumption, right, that there is a potential here that Nate Eaton being called up was because of this Rob Refsynder thing. Actually, it's not even an assumption. That's why he was called up, but the reason he was picked over some of the other minor league options. Now, the other guy I wanted to mention here in terms of where do you find this production from could potentially be Abraham Toro, right? We talked about him this morning. It feels like Toro's days on the Boston Red Sox are pretty numbered, and it feels like this Rob Refsynder IL stint kind of saved Abraham Toro a little bit, right? It gave him a little bit of an extra life with this Red Sox team, so maybe he can make the most out of it. He's actually been, I wouldn't say significantly, in fact, I would say barely better, but he has been better against left-handed pitchers this season than he has been righties. He's currently hitting .269 with a .311 on base percentage, a .373 slug against lefties for a .684 OPS, which is about 6 points higher than his OPS against righties. Again, not much better, but I'm looking for something here in terms of how do you make up this production loss from Rob Refsynder. So you sit there and it's like, oh man, this is a really crappy surprise, right? Sometimes surprises are great. This one certainly is not. I mean, again, he's not going to be out, or at least right now, he's not going to be out for a super extended period of time. I think if he is going to end up out for, let's say, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, then we start having a conversation of, is Yostinson Garcia a name that you could bring up? Is Christian Campbell a name that you could bring up, right? Is somebody that could potentially be a bit more impactful than Nate Eaton a name that you need to bring up here? Then we can have have the conversation about that. But until then, it's just a short amount of time. It's just coming at the worst possible time, isn't it? I mean, Red Sox need to start winning some games against the Yankees specifically, and all of a sudden you lose one of your biggest assets against a series that you really needed that big asset against. It just, I don't know, it feels like typical Red Sox stuff. So I'm not entirely pumped about it. I am pumped to see Nate Lowe in a Red Sox uniform. I am pumped to see Nate Eaton back with the Red Sox. I think he's an athletic, fun player to watch, so hopefully he can give us something, but there's just this dark cloud of, hey, Rob Refsynder's not on the Red Sox against all these tough lefties. But let me know in the comment section down below, what did you guys think? What do you think about the Nate Lowe edition? What do you think about the Ali Sanchez DFA? And more importantly, what do you think about this injury to Rob Refsynder? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying it. Don't forget, if you guys want to listen instead of watch, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.